a Japanese company that America's own tractor giants once laughed off as a maker of toys, now outsells John Deere in the compact tractor market. And it did it on Deere's home ground, the American farm. That company is Kubota. It came to the United States in the 1970s with small, cheap machines that Deere saw as nothing to fear. Today, Kubota holds the #1 or #2 spot in compact tractors across North America, and it is climbing, model by model, into the higher horsepower classes that were Deere's private cathedral for 100 years. Deere did not lose this ground to a better machine. For years, a comparable Deere could outpull anything Kubota built, and every farmer in the county knew it. So how does a company earn a full century of loyalty and then hand its own turf to a brand it used to mock? The answer is not in the steel. It is in a decision, Deere, made about who is even allowed to fix a tractor. And you can read its cost on the faces of families who ran green for 4 generations and just walked away. 2 hours before a rainstorm on a 40-acre field outside Chillicothe in Livingston County, Missouri, a farmer's John Deere tractor stopped pulling. A sensor had thrown a fault, and the engine cut its own power down to a crawl and would not give it back until a dealer plugged in a laptop and cleared the code. The nearest dealer was 4 hours away. He climbed down from the cab, put his hand flat on the warm hood, and watched the sky to the west turn the color of a bruise. The repair, when it finally came, cost $4,200. The rain cost him the whole cutting. Within a year, the green tractor was gone from the shed, and a Kubota sat in its place. He was a 4th-generation John Deere man. He was not supposed to be the one who left. To understand what Deere lost in that field, go back 60 years to a receipt his grandfather kept in a coffee can in that same shed. In 1965, the family bought its first new John Deere, a 3020, and the receipt showed a price a little under $4,000. That was real money on a cattle and hay operation in that era. Back then, the promise was simple, and the promise was true. You bought the machine, you owned the machine, and you fixed the machine at the kitchen table with the manual open if it came to that. A neighbor could fix it. The local mechanic could fix it. The green paint in that shed was not a brand preference. It was the grandfather. It was proof that this family had backed the right horse for 3 straight generations. But the promise and the company that made it were quietly becoming 2 different things. So was that sensor the first crack in 60 years of trust? Not really. The bill that ended it was only the last name on a long list. First came the software. Newer Deere machines run on code the way a phone does, and more of what they can do now sits behind a login the farmer does not control. Then came the part he could no longer simply buy. A component that once cost $40 at any counter now had to be ordered through a dealer and matched to the machine with a tool only that dealer owned. So a repair that used to be an afternoon became a week of waiting on a truck. Did he call and complain? Once. The man on the phone told him the policy came down from Moline and there was nothing local anyone could do about it. Moline, Illinois is where John Deere keeps its headquarters, and to a man standing in a drying hayfield in Missouri, it might as well have been the moon. Each of these was small. Not one of them, alone, would end a loyalty that old. But laid end to end, they formed a pattern, and the $4,200 bill was just the day that pattern became impossible to ignore. It was the slow discovery that he no longer fully owned the thing he had already paid for. You do not need to know what a sensor is to feel that. You only need to have paid for something, and then been told you were not allowed to touch it. This was one farm, outside one small town, with one stubborn man in the cab. So why was the exact same scene, the same dead engine, the same 4-hour wait, quietly repeating in counties this farmer had never even heard of? Before that answer, if these are the stories you want more of, subscribe. This channel works through one machine class, one corporate decision, one customer at a time. The list is long. The answer was not built in a field. It was built in a boardroom, on a chart, years before this man's tractor ever quit. So why would a company that won a century of loyalty by making machines a farmer could fix, turn around and lock that same farmer out? Follow the money. A tractor is a lumpy sale. A farmer buys one, then does not buy another for 10, 15, sometimes 20 years. That is a miserable number to promise Wall Street, because it lurches up and down with the harvest and the price of corn. But parts, software, and dealer service are a different animal. Those are a stream. They come in every month in fat years and lean ones, exactly what a share price rewards. So the math from inside Moline was not cruel. It was clean. Every repair a farmer did himself was revenue walking out the door. Every part he bought at another counter was margin the dealer network never touched. Lock the repair behind a tool only the dealer holds, and a one-time machine sale becomes a customer who pays you for the life of that machine. Nobody in that room was trying to strand a man in a field ahead of the rain. Somebody was trying to protect a number that already lived on a chart. What looked like betrayal from a hayfield in Missouri looked like plain responsibility from a tower in Illinois. Deere did not lose its way. Deere followed the incentive exactly. So the morning he finally drove to a dealer, which lot did he pull into? He drove right past the John Deere dealership his father and grandfather had bought from for decades, and he kept going, down to the dealer selling Japanese machines under the Kubota name. He did not go there chasing horsepower. He went there for one sentence, a salesman said, and actually meant that you can service most of this yourself. The common parts are on the shelf, and nobody has to plug in a laptop to hand you back your own engine. Switching tractor colors does not sound like much from the outside. Sit with what it actually cost him. He had to call his father and say the green was leaving the shed for good. He had to stand in front of the empty bay where a deer had sat since before he was born. 60 years of one family betting on one name ended by a laptop and a rainstorm. This account is built from the documented experiences of farmers in exactly his position, and the words are reconstructed to match the logic of what they lived through. As one of them put it, he did not leave John Deere. John Deere left him, one locked repair at a time. He set the new key on the kitchen table, right where the old manual used to sit open, and for a long while he did not say anything at all. So was he just one lone crank in one county? Remember how Deere once wrote Kubota off as a toy? That was the mistake, and it took 50 years to come due. Kubota spent those years doing the unglamorous work. It built compact tractors, the smaller machines hobby farms and cattle outfits and landscapers actually buy, simple enough that a person could own and fix one without a subscription. So it won the low end, on ground Deere thought was beneath it. And here is where the pattern should repeat exactly the way every business school teaches it. The scrappy outsider grabs the cheap low end, the giant ignores it, and by the time the giant looks up, it is already too late. And it does not repeat. Not quite. Because in the textbook version, the giant loses because it never saw the threat coming. Deere saw it. Deere had every sales figure, every defection, every angry letter in the file. And through those same years, instead of fighting to keep the small farmer, Deere kept installing the very locks that were driving him toward the exit. Deere was not blindsided here. Deere watched the door swing open and shoved its own customers through it. Why should any of this touch you if you will never once sit on a tractor? Because the same arithmetic is running inside the company that built your phone, your car, and your dishwasher. The moment a maker decides you should rent access to a thing you already bought, you are standing in that field too, watching the western sky turn the color of a bruise. So what did Kubota actually get right? Kubota won on a structural choice that Deere walked away from. It met the customer at the cheapest, smallest end of the market, the very first tractor a young operation ever buys, and it made that machine something a person could own outright and keep alive with their own two hands. So the relationship started in trust instead of in a lease. A farmer who buys his first Kubota at 30 and fixes it himself in his own barn is not shopping around at 50. He is buying a bigger Kubota, and now the bigger Kubota exists. The company that was only supposed to build little machines has climbed, model by patient model, into the higher horsepower classes that used to be Deere's cathedral. It never had to out-engineer Deere to get there. It only had to keep the one promise Deere broke: own the machine, fix the machine. That promise used to wear green paint. Now it speaks Japanese. So is John Deere finished? Drive any farm road in the country and you will still see far more green than red or orange. The installed base is enormous, and loyalty that deep does not turn over in a single season. The old machines keep running, and the men who love them keep on running them. But watch what is being ordered, not what is already parked in the yard. On more farms every year, the next tractor is already decided, and it is not the green one. Deere still owns the past. It is quietly losing the receipt for the future. Here is the whole thing in one line. John Deere spent a century teaching farmers to trust it, and a single decade teaching them to leave. The compact ground is already gone. But the real fight is 1 horsepower class up in the big row crop machines that are still Deere's heartland. And there is a red brand and a German one lining up on that ground right now with the exact same pitch that just took Kubota this far. If you want to watch the next domino fall before it lands, subscribe.